Ukraine is seeing some success in its counteroffensive effort as Russian troops are forced out of villages in the country's east. Despite the gains, President Volodymyr Zelensky is warning Russia will do everything it can to prevent Ukrainian forces from advancing.
In a place called Storozheve, the village pasture is on fire, the blaze caused by flares from an enemy jet. The high street has been obliterated after weeks of fighting. And the bodies of Russian soldiers lie on the roads. The Ukrainians may have liberated this area, but the community will never be the same. Farms and meadows have been repurposed for target practice. Recruits need to learn how to fire RPGs. Have you had a go? Says the commander. Come. The trench line awaits them as the army battles at the front. But the country's president admits it's a struggle. The Russians are doing everything to stop us. And the consequences were on display in a muddy clearing. It's a first aid station for armoured vehicles that have been shot up or blown up in the war. This Turkish personnel carrier needs new wheels and a new windscreen. Is it easy to replace the glass? I asked. Well, it weighs over 10 kilograms, so it's going to take 2 or 3 people to do it. The Russians have turned the front into the world's largest minefield, and the Ukrainians are still grappling with the effects. Have the use of minefields by the Russians changed the way that you use these vehicles?
Yes, it's a pity to admit, but yes, they have mined this area extremely heavily. The Russians even blow themselves up, but it makes our operations much more difficult.
Every street and every track are marked by warfare. There's not much left. And the bodies of Russian servicemen have been left where they fell. Feet here. A body there. Smell is intense. But there's no room for sorrow when you're this close to the front.
Why hasn't he been removed?
Well, usually when the volunteers come by, they pick them up. But who's going to pick him up? We pick up our own people. He'll be picked up later.
And the people who live here, amid the debris, we went searching for evidence of life. The front gate says people, so we entered the yard, but the owner was evacuated a few weeks ago. Too much artillery, said a soldier. But there are people in the village who have lived through the fighting, and a pair of neighbours emerged at the gate. They told us 8 families here have survived the front line.
Well, constant shelling, constant shrapnel, glass and planks were flying around and brick, even asphalt flying in from the street and falling in the vegetable garden. There was a lot of everything.
Why did you stay here when all this was going on?
That's because we were born here. We stayed home. We are home.
You can still fish the river if you don't mind the bangs. But the majority of residents have gone. Their rural haven ruined by war. John Sparks, Sky News in Storozheve.